All right, I think we should go ahead and get started. So what we have on the agenda for today is I want to talk about Excel Chapter 3, and I also want to show you some really cool things in Excel that we haven't yet shown you, namely protecting your sheets and restricting access in Excel. But a couple of things, administrivia things I wanted to remind you. First of all, there's no class tomorrow, so the building will be closed. So if you come here, there will be plenty of parking because nobody will be here because it's the 4th of July. So we've got I've got a little fireworks going off right there for your enjoyment. And then the second thing is that we will have class on next Tuesday, but it will be very similar to last week Thursday in that I'm not going to have anything that I'm going to talk about. It's going to be open lab day the entire time where you can work on whatever problems that you haven't yet finished in either Word or Excel. And catch up on whatever you need to do to catch up on whatever you need to do, including if you've caught up on everything, then you can do the Excel midterm and the Excel extra credit assignment. And then what we will start on Wednesday next week is we'll start talking about Microsoft Access, which is one of my all-time favorite things. I know I keep saying that, but really it is because it's one of those topics that that people don't know anything at all about, and then they end up understanding it hopefully and thinking that it's going to be really cool. So I think it's really cool. I think you'll like it, but I also think that part of it is, especially the way the book talks about, is well dumb. So chapter 3. We're not going to use the book at all. Chapter 2, we're going to use the book pretty much exactly as it is. And chapter 1, we're going to do the Mark Random version first, and then we're going to go back and do the book version, because so that's the way we're going to do Access. So that'll be the joy and wonder of next week. But today, I wanted to talk about Excel Chapter 3, which is kind of continuing on what we were talking about yesterday, that is working with formulas and stuff, but also we're going to play around with charting and creating charts, as well as going in and using, there's a feature in the latest versions of Excel called the what if assumptions. And they're pretty cool. They allow you to do what's called goal seeking, so that you can say, here are what the data are right now, but what if we wanted it to look like this? How would the data need to be manipulated in order to make it look like this? So the example that we're going to do is, what would we need to do to adjust some of the fields in order to get a $100,000 profit, and what are the different ways that we could go about doing that? That is the what if analysis that we're going to do. And then the other thing that we're going to do is that we're going to talk about creating not only formulas that are built into the system, but also creating if-then statements, and how and why if-then statements are really useful. So I kind of alluded to this last time, but I'm going to explicitly say it today. When we get to the if-then statement stuff, if all of that makes sense, you can legitimately call yourself a computer programmer, because what we are going to be doing today is writing computer programs. We're going to write a program in Excel, but the difference between the way you do it in Excel and the way you do it in C++ and the way you do it in Python and the way you do it in Java is pretty much none. The only thing that's different is the actual syntax. So in the same way that English and Spanish and German and Italian and Chinese all have different vocabulary words and different grammar rules and stuff. Computer programming languages have the same. And if you know how to do it in one programming language, you pretty much know how to do it in all of them. And so, because they all work pretty much the same way. And the only difference between how you do it in Excel versus how you do it in Python is what the exact terminology is for issuing an if statement. And in Excel, the way you do it is by doing equals if, and then open paren, whatever it is, comma, whatever happens if it's true, comma, whatever happens if it's false, close parentheses. In other programming languages, it's done slightly differently, but the concept is the same. And so that's something that we will talk more about it when we actually get to it. So that's kind of my plans for today. Any questions about the plan or other questions before we get started? All right, so in order to get started then, what we want to do is we want to fire up our Excel. So we want to launch Excel, and we want to create a blank document. And the first thing that we are going to do is kind of the same thing that we did last time. That is that we're going to put in the worksheet title and we're going to apply a theme. So in A1, what we're going to do is in A1, we're going to put in Froyo to go, because that's the name of the frozen yogurt store that we work at. Is Froyo to go. And this is the 6-month financial projection. And what they want us to do is they want us to apply the slice theme to this workbook. So to do the slice theme, again, we need to go in on page layout, and we need to go to themes, and then the theme they want is slice, this theme right here. All right, so the first thing that they want us to do on this is that they want us to put in, they want us to start, the month that they're gonna start us with is April. So they want us to start with April. And in April, what they want us to do is they want us to rotate the, content. And one of the really cool things that you can do in Excel is that you can make your content appear, of course, left to right, which is default, but it could be up and down. It could be 90 degrees. It could be whatever degrees that you want it to be. Now, the way the book tells you to get to here is to click onto home and then to click on alignment, to click on the alignment button, which would be on home, which would be this guy right here. And of course you can do that, but there's a much, 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 much better way of doing it. Does anybody remember what I told you yesterday was the most important thing to remember about Excel? Yes. Control-1. So if you're on a Mac, do Command-1. If you're on a PC, do Control-1. And when you do Control-1, it's going to bring up the format cells. And inside of format cells, go to alignment. Now again, how else could I have gotten there? I could have gotten there by going on home and going to alignment, click on to more options, and it would also take me to here. But like I said yesterday, Control-1 is your best friend. Anytime that you want to do anything having to do with changing the look and feel of it, it's going to be Control-1. You can change your number style, alignment style, font style, border style, fill style, protection. It's all done in Control 1. And then on here, this is where you can change your orientation. So if I change my orientation to 90 degrees, it plops it up at 90 degrees. If I make it go at minus 90 degrees, it would go minus 90 degrees. If I change it to minus 45, it goes minus 45. And what they want us to do is positive 45, I think. Pretty sure it's 45. Yeah, 45 degrees is what they want. So if I do that and I click OK, I'm going to get April going in upper. It is the same on the Mac. It's in alignment, and then you change your so on the Mac it's Command 1, and then you go to alignment, and then you make your adjustment. It is 100% exactly the same. There's nothing different. And then click onto alignment, and then go to 45 degrees. I'm sorry? Well, you're on a PC. You do Control 1. Right.
Interesting because it's only given the format.
No, it's not. You have to be in the cell first.
There we go. We got it.
You have to finish typing in April before you can do it. Press enter and then go back to April and do Command 1 or do Control 1. Yes. And then in alignment, change the alignment and then click OK. This, by the way, is, again, how you could also do wrap text. So remember yesterday I showed you that you could do wrap text by doing the option enter or the alt enter. You could also do it by clicking onto wrap text, and that would also wrap the text. All right, so we've created April. Now we want to create May and June and July and August, and we want it to go all the way to September. So the lame way of doing it, of course, would be to type it in. But the wicked cool way of doing it is to use Mr. Fill handle and drag it over to, is it October? No, is it September? Where are we supposed to stop? September. As I mentioned before, when you are doing your fill, the autofill options will appear. It will go away as soon as you accept it. So if you click on something else, it'll go away. But while it's still there, you can click onto the drop-down and you can see what the other options are. So if all I wanted to do was copy the cells, then it would say April, 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 April. If I wanted it to fill the formatting only, it would do only April, but May, June, July, August, and September's area would be formatted at 45-degree angle and would be spaced out like row 3 is. If I say fill without formatting, it would do April at 45-degree angle, and then May through September would say May through September, but they'd all be, you know, normal styled. And fill months does the same thing as months do, because fill months and fill series are the same in this instance. Yeah.
So when you do fill formatting only, it won't type May, but when you type something, it will.
That's correct. So I'll do it. I'll don't do this, but I'll do it. So I'll do fill formatting only. I did fill formatting only, so it did April, But if I say foo, and then I say bar, and then I say foo bar, and then I say bar foo, then you know it creates it all like that. But what I really want is I want it to say September, so I'm going to go like that. All right. The next thing that they want us to do is they want us to go in and they want us to make H3 to say total. And then in I3, they want us to say chart. And then on page 139, they're showing you some of the examples of things that I've already shown you, which are, you know, the cool things that you can do with the fill handle. I don't know why they wait until chapter 3 to tell you the cool things that you can do in the fill handle, because I think that's like the coolest thing in Excel. So that's why I started off right away. But, you know, there it is. All right, so the next thing that they want us to do is that they want us to make the space between column A and column B really big. So again, one of the ways to do that is to select it and then right click onto it and then go down to column width and then type in the column width that they want. Another way to do it is to go between A and B and then click and drag and move it out to the size they want it to be. And a third way of doing it would be to go to select column A, go on format, and then go down to column width, and then type in the number that they want. And the number that they want is 38. So they want it to be size 38. So whichever method you prefer to do, make column A be width of 38, either by clicking and dragging it. The problem that I have with clicking and dragging is that if it needs to be precise, then I never recommend clicking and dragging. Because if it needs to be precise, then almost certainly you're not going to actually make it be 38. You're going to make it be 39.9 or 38.1 or something like that. If it needs to be close but not perfect, then yeah, I think clicking and dragging is a perfectly fine way of doing it. But what they want is they want it to be size 38, so that's why I'm going to type it in instead of the way that the book wants you to do it. And then what they want is they want between B and C, they want 14.5. And I think they want all of them to be like that, don't they? Yeah, so they want all the way to G. They want those to be 14.5. So again, I'm going to go in and do column width and make it 14.5. And then they want column H to be 18. And I don't think they care about what column I is at, because I think that that is going to just auto fit. If I remember right. All right. The next thing they want us to do is they want us to go back to our to our column A, and in A4, they want us to put in the word revenue. And then in A5, we're gonna put in the cost of goods sold. Now, what they want is they want cost of goods sold to be indented. So I'm going to show you two different ways that you can indent. And then in A6, they want gross margin. And then in A7, nothing. And then in A8, they want expenses. And then in A9, they want this to be bonus. And then commission. And then kiosk rental. And then marketing. And then equipment, repair, and maintenance. And then total expenses. And then nothing on 15, and then on 16, operating income. All right. So they want A5 to be indented, and they want A9 through A13 to also be indented. So one of the ways to do this is in alignment, there is a increase indent button. And if I click on an increase indent, it will indent cost of goods sold. Anyone guess what the other method is or what it involves? No, it's not tab, because tab would go to the next one. I'll give you a hint. If you don't, if you remember nothing else from this class, Control 1. So if I go in Control 1, so I've already indented A5. So if I do my Control 1, you'll notice that in alignment, it now says indent 1 space. And if I were to do indent 2 spaces, it would indent it 2 spaces. So when you, if you do a Command 1 or a Control 1 on cost of goods sold, and you go to alignment, in alignment, it'll say horizontal left indent, vertical bottom, and to the right next to it, it'll say indent, and right now it'll say 1 if you've indented it. If it says 0, you want to make it say 1, and then click OK, and it will do the indent.
Is up there too, right?
I'm sorry?
The quick up there on the tools too, right?
On the tools?
On the ribbon. The ribbon.
Yeah, that's what I said. In the ribbon, the other way to do it is to click on this. But what I was saying is that in addition to doing it this method, which is the method the book tells you how to do it, the other method is the method that I was indicating before, that everything can be done by doing Control 1. So if I want to indent these guys, one method I could do to indent these guys would in fact be to click this button here, but I could also do it by doing Control 1, and right now it says indent of 0, and I change it to say indent of 1, and I click OK, and it indents it 1 space. Both methods work perfectly. There's nothing wrong with doing either method. So again, what we want to do is we want bonus and commission and kiosk rental and marketing and equipment repairs to be indented under expenses, and we want cost of goods to be indented under revenue. Any questions so far? All right, so the next thing that they want us to do is they want us to go down to A18 and they want us to type in what if assumptions. So they want us to, they're gonna have us put in some what if assumptions. And the what if assumptions that they want us to use are the same as the ones that are here. So rather than retype them, going to just copy it. And then in A19, I'm going to paste it. There is another cool way of copying. The other cool way of copying is if I select this and if I select my my area, I can then move my mouse such that it goes from being a plus, a white plus like this, to being a arrow with a pointer with a crosshairs kind of thing. It has like has little arrows pointing on it. And if I do that and I click and drag, what it will do is it will move them. Now I don't want to move them, I want to copy them. So to copy, I could do it by holding down my control key and moving it. And that would also copy. But I really don't recommend doing that, especially if you're on a trackpad, because it's, I mean, first of all, it's really hard to do. And second of all, the amount of time it takes to do that on like a laptop versus copying and pasting is not worth it. But I'd be remiss if I didn't at least tell you you could do it. Page 143 tells you all the things that you knew with copying and pasting. So you can paste, of course, including everything, which is the default, but you can paste just the formulas or just the formulas and the number formatting or just the source formatting or without borders or, you know, so on. All right, the next thing that they want us to do is in our what if assumptions, they want us to add a extra line above above commission. So to insert a line above commission, there are several ways that you could do it. One way you could do it is you could right click and say insert after you've selected. Another way to do it is you could be in the cell itself and you could right click and do insert, and then it would say shift down, shift up, and you would say insert an entire row. Another way that you could do it is you can on home, you can go to insert and then you can say insert rows. Different ways that you can do it. And what they want is after bonus, they want it to say sales revenue for bonus. And then above 19, they want us to insert another row. And they want us on 19 to put in the word margin. And I think they want that to be indented. So the next thing they want us to do is down here in our what if assumptions, they want us to enter in the values for the what if assumptions. So they want us to enter in for margin, they want 77.50%. And they want 5,000.00 for bonus. And then in 20, they want 60,000.00. For commission, they want 30.00%. 10.00% for the kiosk. $5.00 for the marketing and 4.00% for the equipment, repair and maintenance. And one of the things that you'll notice is that when you are entering in numbers, Excel automatically figures out what your what format it should be based on the number that you entered. So by entering a percentage, it makes it a percentage. By entering in commas, it makes it go in comma style, and so on.
Every time you put in the number, did you choose the format?
Yes. Well, no, I typed in the number exactly as I wrote it. So by typing in 5,000.00, it will make it be in comma style with 2 decimal places.
When you click on it, it will show up on.
So if I scroll up to 5,000, you'll notice that it says 5,000. And if I go in, it says that it's number. And if I were to, in fact, look at the whole thing, it would be number using 2 decimal places with the 1,000 separator.
And why does the 77.5, when I hit enter, it changed it to 78 and rounded?
It should not have. Then that means that your width is not set at 14.5. Okay. Then it means that when you entered it, you must I mean, those are the only possible things. Well, if you do it again, it's going to go back to the way that you just did it. So if you you would have to go to a different cell to do it. But to change it, you could just go into your number format and in format cells, go to percentage, 2 decimal places, and it'll convert it. You probably did 77% or 77.5%. Anyway, all right. Because what it will do by default is it will, if you put in when you type in the exact amount with all of the formatting, it will recognize that as that style formatting. If you look on page 147, table 3-5, it it shows you what it will do by default. All right, so the next thing that we want to do is we want to enter in our revenue. So they're saying that we are going to get in, this is on page 148, that we're going to get $45,000 and 0 cents in April. And then in May, it's going to be 52,000.00. And then in June, it's going to be 67,500.00. And then in July, it's going to be 90,000.00. And then in August, it's going to be 77,500.00. And then in September, it's going to be 63,750.00. And then for the total, we want to do the auto sum. So we're going to do either equal sum and then go from B4 to G4, or we could just click on auto sum and it will do that for us. And we get 395, 750, and 0 cents. The auto sum, you just click on the sigma. Okay, so again, Control-1, and then alignment. And then make this go down to 0. The next thing that they want us to do is they want us to put in the date. And like I said yesterday, I already told you all about the fun and exciting things about dates. I don't know why they are having us do equals now. Well, I mean, I do. It's because they want us to do equals now, and then they want you to go in and change the format to get rid of the minutes and seconds. Why they don't just tell you to do equals today, I don't know. So I'm going to do equals today. So in H1, what they want us to do is equals now, open and close paren, and then go into H1 and change our number format to date, and to change it to just the 3-14-12 method, I think is what, no, 20-12 method, which is like this, which is exactly identical to saying equals today. Today. Equals today, open and close paren. Because again, equals today gives you today, and equals now gives you the current date and time. And again, if you've forgotten all about this stuff, you can either, go back to yesterday and watch the video from yesterday, or it again is in our Canvas. It is in the page called using Excel to calculate someone or someone's age. So again, like I said, equals today returns today's date, equals now returns today's date and time.
When we put equals today, it gives the time 0 and 0, 0. It gives us the date and the time. Yes.
Right, that's because you did equals now.
No, I did equals today. Yeah, and equals today.
Did you?
I didn't get 20. I just got 19. Just to make sure I did equals today.
Wait, wait.
But this is did you close the parentheses and said equals now, correct?
No, we want equals today. If you do equals now, it's going to give you the date and time.
No, he wants just the date.
Right, so to get rid of the clock, just go into the format the cells, and format the cell to just have the time, I mean the date. It's also on page 150.
Yeah, but that's it.
All right. So the next thing that I want to tell you about is really, 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 really important. And again, if you're working on something else, I want you to stop and just look up at my screen for a moment, because I don't really like the way the book tells you how to do this. So I want to show you something slightly different. So let's say I am I'm a company and I'm selling I don't know, I've got a widget that I'm selling, and I've got a thingy that I'm selling, and I've got a doohickey, and I've got a whatchamacallit. And the widget is, say, I don't know, $15, and the thingy is like $23, and the doohickey's like $44, and the whatchamacallit's like $42. So there we go. So by the way, have I told you the etymology behind whatchamacallit? Yeah, okay, good. Yeah. So there you go. Yeah, so what does your mom call it? Is whatchamacallit. So anyway, all right. So, you know, this is the sales price, and the tax would be, say, what's tax like 9.25%, I think is what it is. So we'll do 9.25 and then 9.25 and then 9.25, 9.25. So then I want to calculate the total cost. So the total cost is going to be equals this times, or not the total cost, I want to say the tax price, and then the total cost. So the tax is going to be equals this times this, and I can just handle that down. And then the total cost is going to be equals this plus this, right? So that's how we would calculate the stuff, right? Does anybody notice any numbers there that are the exact same number that I've repeated a whole bunch of times? The sales tax. The sales tax is the exact same number. So the problem with the way that this this formula and this formula and this formula are created is that they're using the exact same sales tax. B2 times C2, B3 times C3, B4 times C4, B5 times C5. But C2, C3, C4, and C5 are all the same number. So wouldn't it be better if instead of saying multiply it by 9.25%, I created a spot, say down here, where I say our sales tax is 9.25%. And then instead of calling and saying multiply this by this, and multiply this by this, and multiply this by this, and multiply this by this, what if instead I said multiply this by this, and multiply this by this? So that, of course, is a better way of doing it. So I could do this by saying, instead of C2, that's what, B11? So I could say times B11. And then on here, the problem with this is that if I fill handle this down, it's going to go 0, 0, 0, because this one is going to say B12, and this one's going to say B13. And B12 doesn't have anything in it, and B13 doesn't have anything in it, and so on. So there's a better way of referring to numbers when you want them to stay. This method is known as a relative reference because it's saying B11. B is the column, 11 is the row. B12, B13, B14, and on here it's B2, B3, B4, B5, and over here it's B2 and D2 and B3 and D3 and so on. And so there, when I say copy and paste by using the fill handle, what Excel assumes I want to do is it assumes that whatever it is that I'm in will update based on that thing. So if I fill handle down, it will go based on the row number. So when I'm in row 2, it'll do 2. When I'm in row 3, it'll do 3. When I'm in row 4, it'll do 4. When I'm in row 5, it'll do 5. And 2, 3, 4, 5. That's what it does by default. Well, what if I wanted it not to do that? And instead, I want it to stay right here. To do that, I use the $sign. So if I go in my definition of what the tax price is, and I say the tax price is equal to B2 times $B, $11, and then I fill handle this down, it will retain B11, 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 B11. The $sign means keep it constant. The technical term for that is absolute value. So it's, instead of a relative reference, it's an absolute reference. And so a $B means keep the column steady, keep the column constant, and change the row. If I do B $11, that would then mean make the column change, but keep the row constant. And if I want the whole thing to stay constant, which is what you usually do, I would do $B $11, and now that means that it's going to always be stuck at that spot. And so what this means is that my stuff changes the way it's supposed to. And if I want to change the sales tax, all I have to do is change the sales tax variable, and all of the other data are going to modify. So if I say the sales tax is now 5%, or the sales tax is now 2.7%, or the sales tax is 22%, or the sales tax, we're in Oregon and it's 0%. the point is that by doing this, I can very easily update all of these numbers by referring to this one location. And that is what absolute versus relative addressing is all about. Page 151 goes through and talks about all of that stuff. So an absolute cell reference is when both the column and the rows remain the same when they get copied. Whether they get copied by doing copy paste or whether they get copied using the fill handle. A relative reference would be without dollar signs at all. And a mixed reference would be a dollar sign in front of just either the row or just the column. If the dollar sign is in front of just the column, then it means that the column remains constant and the row changes. And if the dollar sign is in front of the number, then it would change the column. So ABC would change, but the number would stay constant. That make sense? So this can be really, 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 really useful. And what they're going to have us do is actually deal with that. So when we are putting in our data, we are going to be doing our calculations based on some of them being constant and some of them being relative. And the things that are going to be constant are any reference to any of these guys. So B19 to B25 are always going to be $B, $, whatever it is. And the reference to the revenue is going to obviously be relative. That makes sense? All right, so the first one that we want to do is B5. So in B5, what we want is we want to make B5 be the cost of goods sold. And the cost of goods sold is going to be the revenue times 1 minus the margin percent. Because it's the same as the revenue minus the revenue times the margin percent. That's using math. That's what it is. So the cost of goods sold. Yeah. So the cost of goods sold is going to be equals B4 and then times, and then the quantity of 1 minus $B, $19. $B, $19. The other way of getting it to be $B, $19 is that you could type in B19 and then you could press the F4 key on your keyboard, but I never remember to do that, and so I always just do it by using $sign and typing it in. So it's going to, the other way of writing this exact same thing would be to say equals B4 minus B4 times $B, $19. It's the same thing. Because B4 times 1 is B4, and B4 minus B4 times B19, same thing. All right. So in B6, and by the way, this is on page 153 at the top. It is going to be equals B4 minus B5. No, I'm showing it so that in my, because I'm assuming you want to see what I typed as opposed to what the numbers are supposed to say.
Before,
That's what I mean. If you prefer to see just what the numbers are, I mean, I could do that, but I assumed you wanted to see what my formula was. I mean, you know, if you really want, you could. I don't know. I thought I was being helpful. All right. So let's see here. B7. So B7 is nothing, right? Because B7 is something else. B7 is just the blank, right? Let me move it so I can see what I'm, yeah, B7 is, so expenses. So the expenses, which are on B8, is also not going to have anything in it because that's just saying, it's just the label. But B9 is the bonus. So the bonus is going to be the value that is in B20 or 0%, or 0. So I think I'm going to skip this one for the moment, and I'm going to go down to B10. In B10, it's going to be B4 times B22. So I'm going to want to do B4 and then times, oops, I don't want to be times 1010. B4 times, and then because this is a fixed number, I want to use the $ and use the absolute reference. So I'm going to say B4 times $B, $22. $22. 22 is the bonus one.
I mean, the number 22.
And then in B11 is the kiosk rental. That's going to be equals B4 times B23. So $B, $23. And then number 12 is going to be equals B4 times, times $B, $24. And then B13 is B4 times B25, so equals B4 times $B, $25. And then 14 is going to be equals the sum of, and then B9 to B13, because I want it to be the sum of everything. And then the operating income is going to be on B16, and that is going to be equals B6 minus B14. Because again, the cost of goods is going to be our revenue minus the revenue times the margin. And the gross margin is going to be the revenue minus the cost. And then the commission is going to be the revenue times the commission amount. And the kiosk is going to be the revenue times the kiosk amount. And marketing is going to be the revenue times the marketing amount. And the equipment repair and maintenance is going to be the revenue times the repair and maintenance amount. So the reason that we're using absolute references for all of these is because these are locked in. These are like my sales tax number that I did in my example. And the B4 is going to change based on what month it is. So I'm going to want to copy all of these all the way across. and have them apply to April and May and June and July and August. And I don't want to keep retyping, you know, B4 to C4 and B5 to C5 and so on. So I am going to keep these relative, but I'm going to make these guys be absolute because I want these guys to remain constant, because all of these are referring to these numbers that we put in. There's currently nothing in bonus. Well, I know, because I'm going to tell you about bonus, but I want to tell you about if-then statements first, and so that's why why I skipped it for the moment. I'm going to do that literally right now. Are there any questions about this part so far? All right, if you're still typing, I want you to stop for a moment, and I want you to look up on my screen, because I have another really important concept that I want to go over. So yesterday, I showed you, I think it was yesterday, that I showed you conditional formatting, where you could create a rule, and based on that rule, you could change how the spreadsheet looked. So I did the example where I did a bunch of grades, and I gave people who get an A, they became green, and people who were failing, they were red, and that mark guy was failing, right? Well, what if I wanted to do it actually as actual real letter grades? Here's how I would do that. So I've got Bob and Fred and Nancy and Sally and Kate and Mark. All right, so Bob, he's got like a 76, and Fred's got like a 69, and Nancy's got like an 89, and Sally's got a 95, and Kate's got a 92, and Mark's got, you know, 42. 42 is always a good number, so we'll do that. Yeah, well, no, he went down. He went from 52 down to 42. So, you know. Oh, was it yesterday? Was he worse yesterday? Oh, that's right. He was 20. That's right. So now he's getting a little bit better, but he's still failing. So obviously, what I want is I want it to automatically come back and say that Bob's got a C, and Fred's got a D, and Nancy's got a B, and Sally's got an A, and Kate's got an A, and Mark's got an F. That's what I want. That's what I want. But I don't want to type that in. I want it to automatically happen for me. So the way that I would do this is there is a command in computer programming called an if-then statement. And in Excel, to do an if-then statement, the way you do if-then is the syntax is equals if. And when you do equals if, you then put in an open parentheses, and you put in the logical test, the thing that you are checking to see if it's true or false. So it has to be something that Excel can evaluate as being true or being false. This is what's known in computing as a Boolean choice. So the only two possibilities are true or false. So one of the things that I could do is I could say, what's the number? The number is B1. So I could say if B1 is greater than or equal to 90, then I could, then I wanted to put in whatever will happen if it's true. So in this case, if B1 is greater than or equal to 90, we say, you know, A. If it's not true, we put in what we want to have happen if it's not true. So, you know, to begin with, I might just say, I don't know, not an A. So what's going to happen is that it's going to first check to see if B1 is greater than or equal to 90. If that evaluates as true, then it will say A. If it evaluates as false, it'll say not an A. Everybody with me so far? Okay, so if I press enter, it says not an A. Now I want to copy this all the way through, so I'm going to just use my fill handle, and it's going to say not an A, not an A, not an A, A, not an A. Now, if I were to change this to say 80, then it would say, you know, A or B. Because if it's greater than or equal to 80, it's going to be either an A or a B. Otherwise, it's going to say not an A, because I didn't bother changing it. So Nancy's going to get a B and stuff. And similarly, I could do the same thing to make it say C and so on. But what if I wanted it to do all of them? So again, the syntax for an if statement is this. The syntax for an if statement is equals if, open parentheses, the condition, whatever it is that you're doing, and then a comma, and then what happens if it's true, and then what happens if it's false. And that is the that is how you create if-then statements in Excel. So let me reduce my font size a little bit so it'll do yours there. So what you want to have, what you want it to say if it's true, what you want to say if it's false, or what the value will be if it's true and what the value will be if it's false. Because again, it's going into a cell. So this cell will have as its value what happens if it's true. If it's not true, what is it going to do? Okay? So what I could do in here is I could say this. If B1 is greater than or equal to 90, then do an A. If that's true. If that's not true, then what I want to do is I want to say, let's do another if statement. So I'm going to say, if B1 is greater than or equal to 90, then give it an A. Otherwise, if it's false, so the value of false, because again, the logical test is if logical test, value if true, comma, value if false. If it's false, I want it to be another if statement. So I'm going to say, if, and then B1 is greater than or equal to 80. Then it'll be a B. Because if it's 90, it'll already have been true. Right? If it's 90, it'll already have been true. If it's not 90, then if it's 80, it'll be a B. And if it's not 80 or 90, then I wanted to do another if statement. So then I'll say if B1 is greater than or equal to 70, then make it a C. If it's not an A or a B or a C, then I'll make it be another if statement. And I'll make this one say if B1 is greater than or equal to 60, then it'll be a D. And if it's less than 60, then it's a failing grade. So then I'll say if it's not 90 and it's not 80 and it's not 70 and it's not 60, then it's going to be an F. And then I have to close all of the parentheses. So let's see here. I have to close this one, and then this one, and then this one, and then this last one. And then I close this. Now I guess I made a typo. Yes, please fix it. So I must have forgotten one parentheses. So it's going to go through and evaluate everything correctly. That's correct. It's a condition under the condition under the condition under the condition.
That's why you're closing the parentheses.
That's why I was closing the parentheses. So again, the way that I wrote this is this. So it's saying if B1 is greater than or equal to 90, then A. If not, if B1 is greater than or equal to 80, B. If not, if B1 is greater than or equal to 70, C. If not, if B1 is greater than or equal to 60, then D, else F. And then this paren refers to this one, and this paren refers to that one, and this paren refers to that one, and that paren refers to that one, and this final paren refers to this first one.
How many ever ifs are there, that many parentheses at the end?
Correct. So I had 1 start, 2 start, 3 start, 4 start, so I need to have 4 closings. Because I have 1, 2, 3, 4 ifs, so I need to have 4 closes. I think I did 5, or maybe I did 3.
That's what
I missed 1. This is what I said before, that computers are stupid and they are really good at only understanding exactly what you tell them to do. And what humans are really good at is abstraction and taking the concept and saying, boom. So my mistake was not understanding what I wanted it to do. My mistake was not actually typing in what I meant to do. And the thing I always like to point out on that is I have been doing this since 1984. The last time I made that mistake was 30 seconds ago. The difference between an experienced programmer and a novice programmer is that the experienced programmer knows for a fact that they are going to do something human-y and stupid. And the novice programmer assumes that the reason that it got an error message is because they didn't know what they were doing. So what I always tell people is when you're dealing with Excel, and when you're dealing with, when we talk about access in a little bit, when we talk about access, know for a fact that you are going to make a typo. When you make the typo, don't give up. Don't assume that the reason that it's not working is because you don't understand what you are doing. I'll bet you dollars to donuts you understand how to do it. The mistake is you did 3 instead of 4. Or you did 5 instead of 4, or I forgot to put in a closed quote, or whatever stupid mistake it was that I forgot to do. The good news is that modern versions of Excel are smart enough to kind of figure out maybe what you meant, and it will do what it did, which it said, I think you meant this. Is this what you meant? 5 years ago, it would have just had an error and I would have spent 10 minutes trying to figure out what stupid little mistake I made in doing that. Anyway, the point is, this is really, really cool stuff. Because what you can do is, it doesn't have to be numbers. It could be anything. So I could say, on here, I could say equals if this is equal to Mark, then say, hi, Mark. Otherwise, say, you're not Mark. So what will happen is that it says, hi, Mark, because it said Mark. Because I said if A6 equals Mark. If A6 is, blah, 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 then it says, you're not Mark. So the point is that you can use if statements to do literally anything. And this is computer programming. This is what computer programming is all about. So if this makes sense to you, you're a computer programmer, even if you don't think of yourself as one. All right, so going back to our little guy, we're back here. So in the bonus, we want to say if the revenue is greater than or equal to the bonus amount, then, the bonus requirement, then the value is going to be the bonus. Otherwise, it's going to be 0. That's what we're saying. That's the equation that we're going to be putting in. So the equation, the way that we need to write this is going to be, we want to say equals if, because we're saying the logical test. And the test is going to be if B4 is greater than or equal to $B $21, because that is the amount that we've said is the minimum for bonus. Right? Wasn't that what it was? I think that's what it was. Let me go back to my, yeah, the sales revenue requirement for bonus was B21. Well, it's 32,000, but was that what it was? 30? No, it was 60,000. 60,000 is the requirement right at the moment. So, so if B4 is greater than or equal to $B $21, then the bonus is going to be the bonus amount. And the bonus amount was listed on B20. So we want to say $B $20. Otherwise, if B4 is not greater than B21, then the bonus is 0. And then we close the paren. No, you don't have to have a space. No, the number is listed in B20. That's why we're saying $B $20. Because again, it's more efficient to do it that way rather than to continuously write 5,000, 5,000, 5,000, 5,000, 5,000, 5,000. Plus, what if we decide we want to change what the bonus amount is, and we want the bonus amount maybe not be 5,000? What if we change the bonus amount to like 1,000? That's actually going to be one of the goal-seeking things that we're going to do, is see what happens if we lower the bonus amount. If we lower the bonus amount, can we get up to, $100,000 or whatever is the maximum that we're supposed to get it up to? So that's why we don't want it to be a number. We want it to be a reference to a cell. And because we want to just have one reference to that cell, we want to use an absolute reference instead of a relative reference. All right, so so that would be right at the moment, in April, they get no bonus. And the reason in April they get no bonus is because 45,000 is not greater than or equal to the sales revenue for the bonus, which was 60,000. So they get no bonus. So now that we've done all of these numbers, what we can do is we can take all of them and fill handle them to the right. until we get to H. And we should get all of the numbers. So that in May, they have 52,000. That's not enough. But in June, they got 67,000. So that's over the bonus. So they get bonus. They get bonus in July. They get bonus in August. And they get bonus in September. Just barely, but. I fill handled from B5 to B16 all the way across. B to H.
What's the formula for the C16?
C16 was C6 minus C14. All right, so that's the end of the stuff that I wanted to talk about for the moment. Let's go ahead and fill in your data and stuff, and then what we're going to do when we come back from the break is we are going to add some sparkline charts to this, and then we're going to format it and make it look pretty, and then we're going to do the what if analysis. And we're going to put in a chart, and then I'm going to show you how to protect it. So those are the things that we're going to do when we come back from the break. But why don't we go ahead and give you time to fix this and take a little bit of a break. So we'll start up again in about 15 minutes. So.